Everybody, wow, everybody, how is it going? Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. It's St. Patty's Day yesterday, and for some reason, I don't know what is going on here. I never, it never fails to amaze me how some of these social media apps can go awry. You know what I mean? I mean, don't you guys have that issue? Talk about it. Some of these social media apps, they act as if they're perfect in every way. They're so perfect, but in fact, they give you the most issues. Lord help me, Jesus. I cannot begin to tell you. So today is St. Patty's Day. Yesterday was St. Patty's Day. Well, it is for me because I guess I'm so accustomed to celebrating it on on a Monday or a Friday. And we are grateful this year. Well, actually, it was kind of a weekend, wasn't it, for St. Patty's Day? Good morning, Michelle. I mean, wasn't it? So more violence, yeah, more accidents, more DUIs, driving while under the influence. Folks, I guess we're just living just a little, loving just a little. I guess we're just living, right? And I tell you the truth, I have come to accept. Good morning, Periscope. Good morning. How are you guys doing? I have just come to the point where I am like, whatever works. I declare that I just believe if this is how you live, and this is how you choose to treat your life, then do it with everything that is in you. That's just, I have just come to that place to accept it because honestly, none of us know the last minute or the last day when we're going to get out of here. Recently, my father passed away, right? And though you can say, well, he was your dad, he lived. Yeah, 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 yeah. But you know what happened though? Even though he lived, right? I'm trying to get the angle on this camera. It's too close to me. I don't like it. And even though he lived his life, one thing I'll say about my father, dad lived his life the way he wanted to live it. He didn't care about what anyone thought. He didn't care what anyone had to say. And he lived in a different time than we did, right? He lived in a time when it was unusual for people to do the things that he did, but he did it anyhow. And he lived his life the way he wanted to live it. And because of that, he died, I guess not the way he chose to, but he lived. So if there's one thing his life taught me, just as the Bible says, don't let the dead bury the dead. Don't go mourning after. It's a very difficult thing. You still are going to grieve because you're human, and you're going to miss the contact and the content of that person, and you're going to miss being around them. And grief is its own monster, right? At some point, I'm going to do a show on grief. In fact, I'm in the midst of wrapping up my book After the Fire. So I started writing The Long Goodbye, which chronicles my experiences with my mother, right? And but I talk about grief in a significant way, how we grieve and how different people grieve and how grief affects us differently. Some people say, okay, it's just one day and it's done. And they're serious about that. It's one day, it's done, it's over with, and they're good, right? And yet for some of us, it's more than that, right? And it's in a significant way. This is not looking good. It's not looking good. That angle. I don't know. Something is wrong with this angle this morning, and I don't know what it is. But it's still Monday. So different people grieve in different ways. I mean, some people go to the mall. Some people go having sex. Some people go drinking. Some people smoke. Some people get mad, throw stuff, right? And some people internalize it and then act out, right? So grief affects different people in a different way. And I think in a lot of ways we're responsible. People who are spiritual healers, we're responsible for not talking about death and not talking about how death affects people so that you're better prepared. I found that that was true when my mother died, that as much as I knew or as much as I felt exposed to spiritually, there was still a lack of depth where I still went. And I suspect that that is just being called human, right? That's just being human. No matter who you are, you still are going to hurt and you still are going to pay for it somewhere along the line. I know that from my mother's experience, there's some things that I avoid like the plague. I don't, if a family member close to me has passed away and I knew the person and I know I'm going to mourn it, I'm not going there because that spiral of grief is like a vortex. It takes me up into it. And at the last, when I least expect it, you're so wrapped up in it that you can't focus. I'm not into it. I spare myself the grief of grief. I have learned to do that. And I suspect I probably have been warning myself over time because I didn't go to my grandfather's funeral because I couldn't. I just couldn't. When he died, I have issues with seeing people I love go beneath the ground and go on. You know, some people say, well, you can cremate them. That's even worse to me, right? There are just some things that, if you ask me what is my weakest point in life, I'm going to tell you right now it's loss. Death is something that I have found because there is no coming back. There are no answers. There is nothing coming back from that. So if you ask me what is my weakest point and what is the thing that takes me out and what is the thing that affects me the most, death is loss, that kind of loss. I can get back over loss of a house, material stuff. People walk out of your life. Okay, big deal, keep it moving. But when someone dies, that just completely takes the wind out of my sails. So I have learned how to deal with it. So my book, The Long Goodbye, that will be coming out next year. I know. I'm pumping them out, right? I'm getting them out because I really want to get to the stories that I want to tell. The stories that I really want to tell. There are lots of stories. You know how the creative process works. Many of you who watch me, you are creators yourself. So you know how that works. You talk about, you do stuff, and it just keeps on getting better. So how are you doing? Anybody did anything crazy on St. Patrick's Day? Did you all go crazy? When drinking? I know you all took advantage of Uber and Lyft, right? They're a real thing, right? So we don't need to drive nowadays inebriated. Please don't do that. If you feel like you've had one too many, or sometimes just one might be your tipping point, please just call an Uber. Leave your car, park it, and just call an Uber. Saves your life and save the lives of innocent people. It's just getting out of, it's too much. No one should lose their lives because someone is irresponsible. And that's why sometimes many of us, including me, I'm off the roads by a certain time, especially on weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, because people are crazy. They're just crazy people out there who have had one too many, and then they get behind the wheel of a car. So their vehicle becomes a homicide. Their vehicle becomes an agent of murder. And people don't seem to understand that. And I don't know how many more times should we see people arrested or people being charged in the vehicular homicide of someone else for us to get the idea that driving while drunk is terrible. The other thing that we need to focus on is driving while texting. If I could take a picture of every motorist that I drive past on the roads who has held the traffic back, or you wonder why the traffic is backed up, or why is this lane not moving? And then when you switch lanes and get up there, that person was texting while driving. How irresponsible. I must admit, though, it doesn't seem to happen a lot with people my age and people in their 40s. It seems to be younger people who drive and text at the same time. For some reason, younger people feel that they're invincible, that they can handle this. It's just like when you have a child, in their teens or in their early 20s, when stuff comes up and you say, how are you? I can handle this. We used to say that too. I can handle this. And then you find out that there are some things in life you can't handle. You were not built for it. There are just some things. Well, driving while texting is one of them. I mean, how many times you drive past people, see, I'm wearing my Irish colors here. Yeah, my father's father was Irish. So kind of don't have a choice here. Explains why I like the color green. Yeah, yeah. So anyway, it you pull up beside these folks and they're texting while driving. What's the story here? Why are we still doing that? Why are we still texting while driving? Why are we still letting our desire to send that text in the midst of traffic? I saw someone driving up. I almost called the police yesterday. I was driving up Woodward, right? And the intersection I was is very busy. I just come off the freeway, so I'm heading north, right? And there was someone uh FaceTiming. She was doing a live while she was driving. She's behind the wheel of her car and she's driving. I almost called the cops because she can't do all. You're not superhuman. You're not the first person who has ever driven a car. So you can't do all things all at the same time. You can control the vehicle, plus control this. And this brings me to what I wanted to talk about for some time now is all the distractions that are in our motor vehicles. We have screens, right? So you want to answer the phone, it's hands-free, but you have to press the screen to accept. Because you can either set it up that while you're driving, you don't get the phone call, or while you're driving, it automatically answers when it rings, right? So we have screens, people choose their music. I'm one of those persons who I like to set my play up before I drive off. So when I start the car, that's when I set everything up and I'm driving so I don't have to be distracted, right? Some people like to text. So if the only persons whom I really, really want to hear from most of the times are like my family members, right? So my children, especially if I'm on my way to picking them up or I'm on my way, then I'll let them know that I'm going to be driving, I'm leaving. So I'll text you when I get there, right? Or if I'm meeting someone, I'll say I'll text you when I arrive, right? But I'm on my way, I'm leaving now. So if I'm going to meet someone, I say I'm on my way, I'm leaving now. But I don't like to use the phone. If I need directions, I set up the navigation so that it navigates me on my way there. I don't have to touch the screen. And I think in a lot of ways, these new features and these new technologies, whilst it is designed to enhance the way we live, make life easier, but I think it's contributing to a lot of distractions. I'm not going as far as saying it's contributing to accidents and death. That's a whole other statistic that I'm pretty sure the car lobby, the motor vehicle lobby is going to shut down. But trust me when I tell you, if you are like me, just driving down any road in America, one of the things that becomes immediately apparent is that there are way too many people texting while driving, especially people who appear to be under 35. They might have children. One point, this is on icy roads, and I saw this young lady. She has a baby in the back because you could see the baby carry the car seat. She has the baby in the back, and she one hand barely on the wheel and the other hand texting away like crazy while the car was still moving. And the rest of us, it was during rush hour, so the rest of us had just stopped on this road. It was like a mile road here I think it was on 12 Mile Road here in Southfield, and the rest of us had just stopped. We just literally stopped. We just stopped. We just stopped and let her do her foolishness. She was a young mother, so clearly, good morning, everybody. So clearly, good morning. Clearly, she didn't care or she doesn't understand. So I'm thinking, remember when we were in our 20s, early 20s, we thought we were invincible. We could do anything. We jumped off platforms. We jumped, ran, jumped. I was a jogger, so I used to run. It never occurred to me the impact of running on joints or bones or anything. I didn't even think of that. All I thought was, I didn't even know that I thought I was useful. I just thought this was life and I should do it. It's now that you are aware of, depth perception is what I call it from your sight, right? Why do older people fall so much? It's depth perception, right? And the fact that you feel like you can control some things. Because I still run up and down stairs, like I still run up and down, right? Everybody's gonna slip and fall is how I look at it. I try to avoid walking on ice, right? I guess you can't say you're a Michigander until you slip on ice. I slipped on ice about 5 years ago. Never happened again. I was rushing and didn't look where I was going. And so I fell. Luckily for me, because I work out, what happened to me was my hands broke a fall. So I went down on my arms that I found out were amazingly strong because I do exercises, right? So it could carry my body weight. So we need to pay. I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know about talking to young people because some of these folks, you can talk to them forever and a day and they're still going to text and drive. They're still going to speed. They could be your daughter, your son, my nephew, your niece, right? They could be your cousin, your friend's child or whatever. No matter what you say to them, they feel that they think this generation in particular, I thought we were bad, but I don't know that we disrespected our elders to the extent that these young people do. They totally have no respect for anyone at all. They don't even respect themselves. I think the way they talk to us is symptomatic of the way they speak to their parents, right? And that is not to say that that gives me the right to interfere in someone, how they're raising their child or they're doing something. I think it's all about approach. If you feel like you have to say something personally, I don't say anything. I just look and give them the look and keep it moving, and they get enough from that look. But I don't. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know that we're saying on a mass level just go interfere in people's lives. No. But what I'm saying is this generation are very attached to their devices. And so they don't give credence to anyone over 30, much less over 35. They actually think life stops at 35. So until they get past 35 and say, whoa, I'm still here. I don't know what I'm doing here. So because they don't give credence, they think we are unaware. It's much in the same way that after you turn 50 and you're in a work environment, that you find that it's the younger people who come to fire you because they think you're aged. They think you don't know any better. And they're probably judging you according to their parents, whom they have to take their parents' iPhone and set it up. Frankly, sometimes what happens is the technology changes so fast, only young people have the time to sit down and play with it. The rest of us are too busy doing. I was talking with a friend of mine on Friday, and he says in his office, he just gives the social media part of business over to the young people in his office and I said, that's because they have more time. They don't have to worry about budgets. They don't have to worry about outcomes. They don't have to worry about goals. They don't have to worry about going shopping, going grocery shopping, budgeting, and figuring out what this needs to be done along with everything else. They don't have to worry about that. So they have way more time. Where's my device? To pick up a phone and read stuff and carry on with stuff. Whereas the rest of us, that is time consuming because we don't have the time. And we didn't grow up with these things at our fingertips. We grew up with big old funky desktop computers. That was the bane of our existence. We had typewriters, then we matriculated to these big Word programs. Imagine that, a Word program. Remember, what was it? Some Word thing it was called before they invented Microsoft Word, right? Software for you to write letters in. It was designed primarily to write letters in, then we use it for all kinds of interfaces, right? So today's young people, they don't have the kinds of, and even when they have children, I'm appalled to see how they raise their children. I mean, the child is in the restaurant with them screaming bloody murder and they're oblivious, right? They go out. I think I saw recently, we went out to dinner and there was this group of friends who obviously were having a Saturday night out. You know how that works, right? So I'm like, okay, so they're probably bored and tired and just want to have a date night like they used to have before they started having children. So they were joined by another group of friends in the same. But you know what appalled me? Everybody in that group, all four of them ordered alcoholic beverages. I kid you not, more than once. So they were drinking and they're going to get in a car and drive with children. And I was like, am I the only person in here who thought something was wrong with that picture? So you are going to drive after you've had a drink or two with your own kid in the back seat of the car. Okay. Do you see where I'm coming from? And if you were to say anything to those people, they'll probably look at you like you're strange or something is wrong with you for actually thinking that, right? Because it's amazing to me today how people, right, think that you are strange when you say something about this. It amazes me. It just simply is mind blowing how this happens. So I don't know. We're in a lost. Some days I'm just like, you know what? We're in a lost world. Stuff is just happening. People are just doing what they're doing, and that is it. So I don't know. I don't know what we're gonna do. I don't know what we're gonna say. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the stage where we can actually say something to anyone who will listen. Because young people, they think we're irrelevant. They think we're insignificant and irrelevant, and they know it all. They do it all, and they think we have no sense, nothing at all. And I'm thinking to myself, is that how I thought about my parents? I'm wondering it. No, I probably thought that mom probably didn't wasn't savvy with Facebook, but then she was streaming Facebook all the time, so I don't know about that. But you know what I mean? I mean, she insisted on having an iPhone, and then she was like, I don't understand why you all have music on your phone and there's none on my phone. Download some music to my phone. We were like, okay, right? And then she wanted, as soon as the new one came, and she's like, that's the one I want. That's the one I want. That's why are you giving me the old phone? She's like, no, I want the new one, just like you. So I don't know, but I don't know. I might have thought she wasn't as computer savvy, but I don't know that I was disrespectful about it. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. So you can think someone is in their 40s and 50s at work, and you might think that they might be a little behind in terms of technology, but you don't have to say it in a way that is offensive. Even if you think you're the youngest and the brightest and you just click, 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 it does not work like that. You're sowing seed because your day will come. Karma is real. I have found that to be true. Years ago, I was the young person who was hired by this company because they thought that they hired me because they thought I was smart. They didn't hire me because of my youth. I actually didn't think I was that young. I was 28 at the time, right? So I didn't think that that was necessarily the case. They hired me because they thought I was smart and I could do this that they wanted done. Remember how we talked about the general mentality, how you bring order out of chaos? I've been doing this for a long time, right? And so they brought me into this, but there was another woman they hired who was older. Now, maybe at the back of their minds, they were thinking we would have been an ideal team, that if I were too young, too brash, that maybe she would have tempered. But she took it a whole other way. She took it to mean that it was a rejection of her. And I mean, she used to say things around me like, I wear my grays. And she wasn't that much older than me. She was like about 15 years older than me at the time. She was in her early 40s. I thought it was fab. She didn't think I thought so. So she went on a program to continually destabilize me until my secretary finally said, are you not paying attention? And I'm like, I don't have time for her. I was so focused on getting my job done and getting what they hired me done that I didn't have time to focus on the petty nuances of people. And I said that one day and she heard. I said, I don't have time to focus on the petty nuances of people who should know better. If they're matured, then they need to act matured. I could do with some matured help around here. And she walked out. She said that I was insulting her age. No, as far as I'm concerned, if you're matured, act like it. Don't act like a kid. Because if you're coming in here and you're being just as petty as any 20-year-old would have done or anybody younger would have done, then you weren't helping, right? The point I'm making is I don't know that even in my day that we were disrespectful about how we perceived people of a certain age, right? I don't know that. I don't know that we were. I was watching Netflix's House of Cards recently over the weekend. I was kind of binge watching like Friday night. Oh, perfect, right? And this 59-year-old woman was the office manager and her boss was 52. And the boss fired her. And she said, what am I going to do at 59 but go bag groceries somewhere? What am I going to do? They're not going to hire me. I won't have anything to do. So I finally just end up having to bag groceries to live. And her boss was not moved by it because that's how you are. You have to be tough. And I was thinking about it and I was like, that's a reality for a lot of folks. And I know that in our country, in our society, we have this perpetual youth culture thing going where you're only good and effective while you're young. And we feed that. But then we go into the courtroom and the judges are all older. Tell me when was the last time you think they're going to hand the power of a judge in a 25-year-old and a 28-year-old? Nah, nah, they balk at some stuff. Mark Zuckerberg owns Facebook, so he can be CEO all day if he wants to. That's his company. But now that he went public, he has a board of directors. So they can remove him if he wants, if he doesn't perform. But it took a significant amount of time before that happened. You see where I'm coming from? So what I'm saying is, whilst I like youth, and I like their positivity and their energy especially, and their different ways of doing things. When you look at how they think outside the box, they think of doing things in a different way. I like that, but I still would appreciate some sensitivity around people who are matured, right? And for those of us who are matured, we also owe the community and the world a certain sense of give back. Stop insisting on doing it your way. If you work in a company and they've been doing it this way for 100 years and now they have changed, go learn the new thing. Go on YouTube, learn all kinds of tutorials, embrace the new technology as much as you can. Yes, you are forced to, because then you're going to be rendered and sidelined, right? I can't begin to tell you. I just like you. I had to get when I like phones, and we had Blackberries. Remember when they brought in a touchscreen Blackberry? That was the best thing ever. Whoa! I thought it would never get better than that until they brought in the iPhone with an app. And I'm like, so you mean I don't have to go www dot anymore? I could just press the app, open it, and get it done. I'm like, why didn't we think of this before? And then when they brought in tablets like iPads, I was like, oh my gosh, why we didn't think of this? Some things, and when Facebook and so on came on stream, I was like, but why didn't we think of this before? We could have done this 100 years ago, right? So what I'm saying is, we need to embrace change. And we also need to do ourselves a disservice by keeping current with stuff. Don't get bugged on, well, back in the day, we used to do it like that. Well, today's not back in the day. Today is now. Be current in the now. Learn to embrace change and learn to look at things from a positive mindset. Well, how is this going to impact what we do? This looks like a good thing, doesn't it? This looks like a positive change. Embrace it and be positive about it, right? And so, well, show me how. And you see a young person doing it, say, show me how to do that really quickly. Or ask your children, nieces or nephews around you, right? Say, how do you do that really quickly? I will ask my kids. Sometimes I'm lazy. I'll say, just fix it. Can't be bothered. But then I turn around and say, show me how you did that real quick. I want to know how you did that, right? Because we owe ourselves. Because if you want to be current, the last thing you want is to be standing with a phone in your hand and you don't know how to use it, right? So learn to embrace the currency of the now and deal with it. Don't just say, well, these young people today, they just, no. Listen, yes, I admonish them because I'm concerned about the direction in which they're going. I don't like things that endanger the public good and endanger public safety. But at the same time, I also feel that they have a different perspective on the issues of the day. They're going to live longer than we are, so they're going to inherit our missteps and the stuff that we have done. They're going to inherit all of this stuff, and they're going to be in a world that they have to deal with. Look at slavery. Slavery created white supremacy. So the people who lived 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, who thought slavery was a good idea and that it worked for them, the end of it is now white supremacy, hate mongering, hatred of people. And now we have this problem in the society. So you see what I'm saying, right? So one generation to the next, our missteps and our mistakes become what someone else has to deal with. So do yourselves a favor. Let's all do ourselves a favor. This is for me too. I make sure as much as possible when I go into an environment, whoever is in charge is in charge. I don't care what age they are. I respect the authority that is in charge. This is what you want me to do? Sure, stand up. And I don't diminish them or demean them by saying honey or sweetie. They're not my honey nor sweetie. They're the person in charge of that. They are Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, right? I don't diminish them. I don't say, well, sweetie, when my children are, no, 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 no. You are Mr. So and so, you're Miss So and so. Well, Kathy, how do you do that? Do you see what I'm saying? So we owe ourselves that, right? And that's that. So I wanted to talk about not only did we see the New Zealand shooting evolve on Friday, we talked extensively about hate mongering and how much we need to conserve our comments and wait for the bigger story to emerge. Well, now we know it was a white supremacy idea. But the bigger problem around that is hate and what hatred does, right? So we talked about that. But so there's no new developments, the story just continues to evolve like every other mass shooting in history, where it just gets worse and worse. The victim totals will change. It was planned and executed in a way that was streamed. So it was planned and it was executed. So by the time they caught up with him, too late. He had already planned and thought everything out, right? But when you look at that and the resulting response around the world, you begin to see that we have a problem. And the problem is one in which love is what the answer is. Love needs to strike out hate, right? And so we've got to, here in Metro Detroit, the response was quick. We're showing solidarity to the Muslim community, of course, because that's a terrible thing, right? But the bigger problem is white supremacy, the idea, the ideology behind it. That is the bigger problem, right? Too bad. That was just, oh, that's a terrible situation to be in. 50 people killed in one. And look at New Zealand, this country that has 5 million people. Think about that, 5 million people. In one mass shooting, 50 people were dead. Boom, just like that. First time ever. They're dealing with a mass shooting. They have to go to another country's playbook to see how to deal with it. And suddenly, 50 people are dead in one incident. Tough times, right? Tough times. Stuff just happening all over the place. But going through the news feed over the weekend, a couple of things jumped out at me. One, this Boeing situation with a plane that the Ethiopian Airlines that crashed, and the last November, I think it was, the Lion Air that crashed in Indonesia, and the similarities they're finding out with the crashes kind of makes you not want to get on a plane. Hold your hand up. Speak the truth. Speak, right? Kind of makes you like, when I make my reservation, is that a 737 MAX? Okay, we're not going to take that flight. We'll go the next day or 2 days later, right? And you look at it, and now this story is emerging that the FAA knew that there were problems with this equipment. And the rest of us just want to do this. Like, seriously, dudes, you knew that these planes going off, we're going to have issues? No, just no. Just no. Just no. And I'm just like, although the statistics say that their car crashes happen more frequently than planes, but still, here's the thing with a car crash. You're on terra firma. You're on land. When you're up there, where are you going to go? Back to the land. You're at 30,000 feet, and boom, you're going to go all the way down. Not happy. Not a good thing. Nah, not a good thing. So I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to turn out, but I do know this, that they do need to do something better about safety of aircraft in everywhere. They do need to make sure these planes are maintained, they're checked, and for goodness sake, it's just like when the check engine light comes on in your car. But please, people, it's a plane. Once it takes off the runway, it's flying now. Could you please just make sure it stays in the air until it gets to its destination? That's all I got to say about that. So as I scrolled through the news feed over the weekend, this became apparent to me that a schoolgirl, a 17-year-old girl at a Lake Mary High School in Florida, took her own life. She was in class. She was like had 10 more minutes to the end of her first period. She excused herself to go to the bathroom, then went in the bathroom. Next thing they heard, a shot rang out. They thought it was something else. She killed herself. That was in Lake Mary. Over the weekend here in Detroit, an 18-year-old girl jumped off the Belle Isle Bridge. Anybody in Detroit? Y'all know Belle Isle, right? She jumped off the Belle Isle Bridge. Luckily, she was saved because they saw her, and she spent only 6 minutes in the water. Maybe she was swimming. They threw her a flotation device, and the Coast Guard came to her rescue. So I began to think. Then this morning, here in Metro Detroit, in Waterford Township, there's a possible murder suicide. They haven't come to grips about it yet. They haven't released all the information yet. So it looks like a husband and wife. They don't know which one. They're not releasing. Good morning. They're not releasing the name of the couple, or who killed who first, who killed who, and then off themselves. So I began to start thinking, what is with this rash of suicides that suddenly has erupted, right? Young and old people just suddenly offing themselves. And then here, listen to this one. Two Metro Detroit high school girls at, I think it's Henry Ford High School, both went missing in the same week. Turns out the girls are BFFs, they're best friends, and they both went missing. And the rest of us are like, what? Is that either a suicide pact or what? Did they just plan this out to get together? The reason I want to talk about it is this, that in today's world, just like we were talking about how younger folks seem to have no respect or seem to not give grace to those of us who are older than they are, myself included, right? They tend to be very dismissive, right? In the same way, our children, our younger children, our teenagers, it's the same attitude. They're not listening to their parents. They think that you don't know what you're talking about. Children, I have found today, have a lack of vision. They can't see into the future. They can't see how far their lives will go. No matter what you say as a parent, it's like you're hitting a wall. If that child has made up in their minds to do something, they don't see, they don't care if it is harmful. If you're telling them it's harmful, that makes it even worse. And you're probably like, that is age old. We were like that with our parents. I don't know. Many of us probably weren't, because our parents had better coping mechanisms and better ways of controlling us than parents today do. Our parents also had more influence over us because they had more control over our environment. Today, control of the environment in the home is not up to the parent, it's up to social media. So handing your child a phone is literally giving them access to social media. So you have given up control over that child's mind. So you have very little influence over their actions or their thought processes. And children, they're not inclined to listen to us because they think we're insignificant and irrelevant. That's just the prevailing thinking today. You can call it what it is. You can say it's the devil, it's the enemy. You can say all of that. And all of those things are true and possibly are true. But at the same time, we still have this huge dilemma of how do we connect with these young people? I mean, what is in it for them? What is in it for them to just off themselves? Two young girls decide to take off and run away. And they think somehow whoever is coaching them, to me, that's human trafficking, right? I clearly see signs of human trafficking. They were recruited and they were seduced and lured away. And no matter what is going on in the home, whether the home was a good place, because we see that happening even in two-family homes where both parents are in the home, right? We've seen that happen even in areas where people are financially stable. They're not on the verge of divorce. They're just like every other family, right? So it says something about the child in question. Sometimes our children, we have to accept that sometimes our children really don't want to be controlled. They don't want parental control. They want to be in control themselves. And these two young girls who took off, the reason I'm saying it is because we need to pay more attention. And I don't know, in today's busy world with all the stuff that we have to do, how much more attention, where do we find the time and the energy, the mental energy to pay more attention? You give children a blueprint, you give them a playbook, and they start acting outside the playbook, and they start listening to every other voice. They start doing whatever they feel like doing that becomes a contributing factor to their demise. You can't begin to understand how many young boys are in jail because they listen to their friends and not their parents. They didn't listen to anybody around them, but they listened to their friends. That's who had all the influence. That's who gave them all the ideas to do this. It's amazing how parents go out of our way to get children, to get our children to listen to us. And what do? They don't listen. They will not listen. So I'm not speculating about these two young girls. The parents are obviously, the family members are obviously distraught, because as the older person in the relationship, you know what can happen. And somehow they're not listening to us. Whatever that person told them about being in a video or being a model, whatever that person told them about how much more of a better life they will have, they listen to that and believe it more than you. Now, sometimes we have always taken the stand. We've always believed that when children run away from home, it's because there's trauma in the home, or they're running away from something. Something is happening in the home that makes the child uncomfortable. And that usually is a very good, scenario and a very good clue as to what is going on. But something else? Sometimes there's nothing going on. Sometimes nothing. It's just life. In today's world, we have all bought this bill of goods that life is supposed to be perfect and hunky-dory. I'm just saying, it's me too. Some days I just want to break from it. Some days I'm just like, man, can it get better? We've all been there. But I think in today's world, and especially with social media and the availability, what we do is we take so many cues from that. So people on social media lie through their teeth. Have you ever seen them? They lie through their teeth. They're always, oh, life is so perfect. I'm such a perfect person. I'm having a perfect day. They're losing weight. Check this one out. They're losing weight, and they're drinking some kind of tea that makes them go to the bathroom 30 times a day. But they look at me. I work out for 3 hours a day. I just do 2 hours of workout, and I just look so great. And we believe it. Whatever their bill of goods says, we buy it hook, line, and sinker. And we believe it. Because we've been socialized to think that whatever comes from the screen is what is. And so we use that to be the bane of our existence, and it becomes the new screen, the new playbook, the new blueprint. So our children are following a different electronic footprint. They're following a different electronic blueprint, and it's not the one that you have established in your home. And if some of you, maybe it's your granddaughter. For some, it may be a grandchild, right? Or it could be a niece or nephew. They're not listening. These two young girls, probably by now, if they were trafficked, they're no longer in this area, because within 12 hours, they are removed from the location. The minute they get into that car, they're taken somewhere else. Their phones are confiscated. Their identification documents are confiscated. They're given a new name, new clothes to wear, and somehow they buy into this life, that life is going to be exciting. No, it's not. No, it's not. They're taken to another city. They're forcibly given heroin, because heroin is immediately addictive. And that, my friends, is the end of their story. And it's over just like that. Like, I kid you not. It's over just like that. And they somehow, for some reason, the children today buy that stuff, and they listen to it, and they believe it, and they think it's real. And I just want us to sit down. Just give me 10 minutes. I'll be done in 10 minutes. And I just want you to hear me out for 10 minutes as I make this appeal to every young teenager out there. If you live in a home and you're not being molested, nobody's having sex with you, they're not beating you, They're feeding you, making sure you go to school. They're teaching you what is right. Stay there. That's the safest and the best place for you to be. Do not listen to outside influences that tell you you can have it better, whether those outside influences come through a TV screen or through the screen on your phone, or whether it's some guy or girl whom you met at school who is trying to tell you that you can have a better life and you're pretty and you're attractive and there's so much more that life can do for you. You don't have to listen to this. Please do not buy that story. Please do not. There are too many young girls, too many young people who are buying into the idea that they can have a better life and it never pans out. Have you guys been to LA? Have you been to Hollywood? Do you realize that they have a huge homeless problem? They never talk about it because it's not good politics. But you do realize that. You know how many people go to Los Angeles and to Hollywood? They go to LA with a dream in mind that they're going to be the next great movie star. And they don't make it because the competition is like millions. It's like 1 in 8 million or something. And where do they end up? They end up drugged. They end up being trafficked. They end up being prostituted. They end up being homeless and living under a bridge. That is a reality. So when you're telling your daughter and your son that the way forward is through education, you are empowering them. But they're not listening to that form of empowerment. When you tell them that avoid certain friends, they're not listening to you because that friend is in their ear telling them exactly what they want to hear. Every child today I have found wants to be popular. They want to be popular. They want to be the one. They want to be on social media pages, on their Snapchat pages. They want to be popular. They will do anything to follow the direction of the crowd. Anything. If they tell them jump off a cliff, they will do it. If they tell them smoke weed and post a picture, they'll do it. Even though you are the parent in the background saying, don't do that. Don't hang out with that person. They're not listening because the influence of social media is too strong. They don't want to be blacklisted. They don't want someone to go on Snapchat saying they're not a good friend or they're not a friend. They're not a team player. They're not this or that. And we're going to have to fight to win back our children's minds. Because here's the deal. You know what the bottom line is? Guess who is going to pay for their mistakes at the end of the day? Them and you. Because even though they're the ones who are going to pay for it, because either they're going to do jail time, or if they're a girl, they're going to get knocked up and they're going to have that baby. Guess who is going to be there with them? The parent. Because it's your child. So you're not going to leave them. You're going to pay the legal bills. You're going to help them as much as you can. Whereas all of that could have been avoided if they had just listened to you. And no matter what you say, they're not listening. They choose not to listen. So then there comes this part of it, accountability. That's where we're going to win the fight. Accountability. Have we talked to them about accountability? You laid out. You said, this is the way to the truth and the light. If you do this, this is what you're going to get. If you continue to do what you're doing, this is where you're going to be. And if something happens in between and they happen to choose the wrong side, you remind them of the accountability. Well, now we did talk about this. We talked about this. And now the time has come. You're going to have to pay the piper. And the piper over here for this that you didn't respond to is that you either go to jail or if you end up pregnant, you're going to have to raise that kid by yourself. That's how you deal with that. Over here, when the time comes for college admissions and they get into college, you say, well, this is success right here. This is how you pay the piper. Now go to college, stay in college. Don't do the same stupid things. Don't go to hazing parties. Don't, you tell them the usual stuff. You stay the course and you will reap. That's how you pay that piper. And to be honest with you, we have the experience that when life is done and they graduate from college, you're going to run into the same people you were in high school with. You may never see some of them again. If you choose to go to college, chances are you probably will never see some of them again. And here's what happens. You run into them years later. Life has a way of bringing it full speed, right? And when you run into them, you will find that those who were so popular, who chose to pay that piper over there, they reap that piper's mess. But those who had listened and chose this piper, they reap that piper's goodness. So while they're busy twerking, because that's the thing to do today, or yeah, and has been for some time, they like to twerk and they like to post pictures of how good their bodies look and so on. And you're like, girl, please, how you think you got here? I looked like that when I was your age. That's how you got here. They were admiring me too. That's how you got here. Right? Be real with them. Show them. Talk to them. Talk to your children about what happens when they take drugs. Because they sometimes think, oh, it won't happen to me. I can control that until it doesn't. Talk to them about rehab. Talk to them about what drugs does to their brains. Talk to them about what drugs does to their habits, how it impairs them from getting a job. I was watching something recently, and in it, the person was trying to get a job, and they couldn't pass a drug test because they had marijuana in their blood, and they had to go try to have someone else's urine and take it into the bathroom while the proctor was administering the drug test, because people fiddle with that kind of stuff. All because you want to feel high. We have to talk to our kids about what is temporary happiness compared to what is permanent. Today's children, I have found, are allowing themselves to be seduced by some kind of force that is telling them it's okay not to press for success. It's okay to be ordinary. It's okay to just not move for it. After all, what do your parents know? After all, your parents don't know anything. Your parents are old, aren't they? It's the truth. It's the truth. It's true. And if you have a young one, like you may be in your 30s and you just started a family and you have that little thing right there, you have control over that mind right there. He who rocks the cradle rules the world. Say that. He who rocks the cradle rules the world. So you have control over this young man right here. You put that thing on your breast, or you're putting that on your shoulder to pat it to sleep. Start talking in that ear. Start talking. When you put them down to sleep at night, whisper things in their ears. Talk to them. You have control over their minds now. Start it. Start developing your influence. So, and when your children mess up, let them know they mess up. Don't pat it down. Don't smooth it down. Don't, my daughter, Alexandra, she's going to kill me. She probably is going to hit me. But she loves me anyway. So she's probably going to say, oh, mommy, no, I wouldn't do that. I love you anyway. My daughter, Alexandra, is someone whom anyone would be proud of. I'm proud of her because obviously she's mine. She's a very bright kid. She has always been bright, right? She's not a kid. She's 26. She's a grown woman now, right? But she's someone who will tell you the truth. She will sit down, cross her legs, and she will tell you the truth. Okay? She delivers. When she was in high school, she was earmarked to go to the best high school colleges in the country. But she started hanging out with the wrong crowd. And so they called me from school because what? They knew her track record. And they're like, she's missing the mark here in math, and she needs to have it to get into college. She had already been accepted based on her GPA. But she wouldn't have missed the high school graduation because of something silly. So I took it in hand. I am her parent. And I dealt with it as a parent should. Amen? Amen. Nod your heads. Yeah, yeah. Because from she was born, I had control over her mind. I'm raising her and groomed her to be the best that she can be. What's wrong with that? Tell me. What's wrong with that? Nothing. In a world where everything has gone to pot, what is wrong with us as parents raising them to be the best they can be? Not by cheating, not by paying off someone, but using their God-given intellect and their natural gifts and talents to bring about their success. So when they called me, we had that conversation. She fixed that. Oh, she got busy. I held her accountable. She went on to Michigan State, graduated with honors. The day she was graduating, she graduated with colors as a member of the African American population on campus. She graduated with colors. Hello, with honors. I took my bow. I bowed. My mother was so, it's one of the best pictures we have of mom, is that day when she graduated, how my mom felt. She says, nice to see this. That's what we want for our children. Now she's graduating from law school in a few. She stayed the course. You think it was easy? With all the distractions, all of her friends doing this and doing that. Sometimes she wondered, am I doing the right thing? Yes, you are. Talk to your children. Be their cheerleader. Be their motivational speaker. Be with them. Yes, they're going to resent it. But at the end of the day, when it's all said and done and they become 35 and they're working and living their best lives, they're going to turn around and look at the people whom they went to high school with and the people whom some of them might have graduated college with. And they're going to turn around and say, something, it was that voice that kept me going. Let me go say hi to her. Hey, mom, how you doing today? It is what it is. We can never give up the fight to be the parents that we are supposed to be. We can never give up. It's up to us. We have to take the reins over these children because, frankly, these children don't know what they want. They vary based on whom they're following on Instagram or Snapchat, based on what their friends think about them. Imagine that. When has that ever mattered? I mean, I went to high school. I'm sure that there were people around me, but I don't know that I ever let their opinion. I was always so strong-minded anyway. I don't know that I let their opinion of me matter. Because invariably, I don't think they thought very well of me in terms of wanting me to succeed. I think they wanted the success all for themselves. And today, what happens is our children think that success for them has different meanings than it did for us. Do you guys realize that? Success for them means different things. So they are thinking, well, we don't have to go to college to achieve that. And we certainly don't have to do this. You can still do this and come out successful. No, 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 no. We still have to guide. That's where guidance comes in. You have to guide them. You have to guide, show them. And talk to your children, engage with them so that you become the first to know if something is about to go wrong. You know that, right? Because children don't just wake up. Somebody doesn't just wake up one day and say, I'm going to kill myself. This young lady in Lake Mary, she had a problem from December. So they had been treating her. They've been sending her to therapy. Honestly, guys, I'm going to be honest with you. You know what we're finding now? A lot of the antidepressant drugs over the last 30 or 40 years never healed anyone from depression. And a lot of the therapeutic modalities, the successful ones that work are the ones where the therapist thinks outside the box. But if they're going to your therapist is the one that dots all the I's and crosses all the T's, not working. So people are emerging just as damaged. And because they're damaged, the cycle of damage continues. And the cycle of hurt is unbroken. Are you hearing me? So no one is getting healed. And that is unfortunately happening more than we think, where a lot of children included, are damaged, right? And they're not getting the help that they need to get off the course that will eventually take them to taking their own lives. There is no hope. When people look at the society, honestly, let's just be real now. If you're 18, you have an 18-year-old daughter, and you're not rich, right? And you can't buy their way into Hollywood like the Kardashians did. And they believe that singing music or acting or modeling is their way forward. You really have to look at it from the point of view that a lot of these kids are looking at it like, we really don't have any options, do we? We really don't know what's going to happen. It's the truth. You really can't blame someone who is hopeless today, because the way the society is structured, the society is not honoring achievement based on merit. It's honoring achievement based on how good your booty looks, how big your booty is, how much you can twerk, how much drugs can you swallow, how much you can party all night and take drugs, and how many people you're going to have sex you can have sex with. That's the achievement factor. That's how low the bar has been set. Look at this young lady from the actress who was caught up in the school cheating scandal. Look at that for a second. The parents are worth over $100 million. They decided the daughter had her own life. She had sponsorship with Sephora and somebody else. She had her own income stream. The parents wanted them to go to college, and they tried to tell the parents, we don't need college, we're rich. And they would stay rich. They're going to stay rich, right? But the parents pushed them, and now they've lost it all, because the parents may or may not go to jail. They're rich, they may not go to jail, but their money is dependent on public opinion and public support. So you have a young child who looks at that and says, then why, if I even go to college, what's that going to do? It depends on their goals. What's your goal? You want to be worth 100 million? Well, you better go work and invent something. We need to have realistic conversations with our children and tell them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Those kids were set up to be rich already. The Kardashians were set up to be rich already. Make no mistake about it. They were already born wealthy. So it was going to be easy for them to platform and somersault and parachute into wealth. Let's just be clear. These are the kinds of conversations we need to have with our children. We tell them we're coming from nothing to something. We're starting here. They started here. We're starting here. That means you're going to have to work twice as hard, 20, 50, 60, 100 times more in order to get there. That's the conversations that we need to have. And pray God that they listen, because invariably we're finding they don't, because they think there's a quick, well, we don't have to do all that. We can just go, I'm going to go join this guy. He has a video thing. So I'm just going to go meet my friend real quick. Our children are not studying no matter what you do, because they think they have the answer. They think that their way is the right way. And sometimes that's where the accountability thing comes in. You need to let them be. Let them find out. If you have done everything you can as a parent, I don't know who I'm talking to. If you've done maybe, I don't know. If you have done everything you can as a parent and they still have this recording stuck in their minds, you need to let them be accountable now. Let them discover the consequences of their actions. And that's when they're going to listen, because they weren't listening before. There's a guy I know, he's now a well-known motivational speaker. He travels all over the country. He works for an organization in California. And when he was growing up, he had the same problem. He wouldn't listen. His parents wanted him to go to college. He was bright enough to make it to college, but he didn't think he should listen. And he found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time and spent one night down in the county jail. And that's what it took for him to wake up the next morning and go back to his parents and say, you know something, help me get into college. And it totally turned his life around. The trajectory of his life reversed. Now, those same friends whom he used to hang out with, everybody has done 10, 20, and some are doing life. So when he goes back to his old community and he sees them, they're either coming out of jail or they're out on parole or whatever. And he tells the story willingly all the time. And he's a young man. He's like just 47, but he's so world weary. It's like he carries the burdens of the world with him. He said he never listened to his parents. He has a child who is like in her 30s, because he never listened to his parents. Because when his parents were telling him, don't hang out with that group, don't hang out, he didn't listen. So while he was going to college, the little money that he worked while he was in college, he had to be paying child support. So he had to work twice as hard to get his degree. Maybe that's what wearied him. Do you see what I'm saying? And he said, all because he chose not to listen. And in a lot of what we're seeing happening to our young people, they're not listening. There is a message that they're not getting from us. Yes, life is hard. Life has always been hard. Can we just be honest? That's what all the revolutions in civilization were about, was to overturn the system of things that made it easier for some and not for all. That's the premise of every revolution. So life has always been like that. You never, even, have you ever talked to wealthy kids? They get some things free. I mean, they even get drugs brought to them. They get everything. But then they don't get their parents' attention sometimes. Mom and dad are always too busy getting married or getting off or leaving them or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is no perfect scenario where everything just happens and it's just hunky dory all day. There's none of that. But what it is that we have to level with these kids, and we have to tell them the truth, the plain old truth, and nothing but the truth, and hold them to accountability. What do you want to do? These are your options. They're old enough and they're smart enough to understand the consequences. Let them see it in real time, and then let them choose, because if they're not listening to you, chances are they're probably not going to listen to another adult, because they see us all in the same boat. We're all the same. Oh, they're just old, they don't know, they don't want us to have any fun. You ever hear them? They don't want us to have any fun, they think they know it all and they don't know anything. That's usually their excuse. It's as old as time. It's as old as time. You just don't want me to have any fun, do you? You just think that life is all about this. Da, 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 da. And then 20 years later, they're at the drive-through, and the people whom they went to high school with is driving through the drive-through. Notice, driving through the drive-through. And they're working behind the counter in a drive-through 20 years later. Choices. So all these young folks are, and I say this with all that I can think of saying, as a person who is the parent of young girls, life throws the book at us. And sometimes, even when you're pretty and you're attractive, that still does not deliver everything that you want. You still have to work for it. You still have to go for it. You have to make up in your mind that this is what you want and go for it, right? Children are beset with challenges. They're bullied for how they look. They're bullied because they don't sound like, they're of a different faith. They have a different belief system. They're bullied because they look different, sound different, walk different, talk different. They're bullied because they want to excel. They're in systems where it's not okay to excel, or this is where all of us are. You can't just go about this. So we have to govern our children. We have to pay attention and govern. They're seduced by what they're always locked. Be careful when your children are always locked away in their rooms and they don't participate in group discussions. If they're not listening to prevailing conversations in your home, they're being influenced somewhere else. Be careful of that. That's one of the signs. Be careful if they're always on their phones and they're secretive about whom they're talking to. If they can't say, this is Dominique, or Mom, can I talk to Shania? Or Mom, can I talk to Ashley? I'm talking to, if they have to make them accountable, who are you talking to? What are you talking about? Put that down and go study. Because trust me, the piper has to be paid, and the piper comes roaring back. And somebody's going to have to pay the piper. We only have a couple more minutes. Any questions? We only have a few more minutes. Any questions? Any questions? Because these things are real. Too many of our young people are robbing themselves of their lives and their contribution to our society. They could be a doctor. They could be an engineer. They could be a scientist. Come on. They could be the next TV anchor, right? The next police commissioner. We have to tell our kids, everybody, I think a part of the thing that is going on with our young people is everybody wants to be famous because they think being famous gives you all the accolades. I was watching YouTube yesterday, and there's this young man who was advertising. His name is Shawn Mendes. I suppose he's a performer. I don't know him, right? Or I don't know of him. But he said that all the fame and all the concerts and so on, he said that's not really how he started out. He just wanted to be that guy on YouTube playing the guitar and singing. That was his goal. No, he's more famous than that, right? He has huge crowds wherever he goes. I think sometimes our kids just want to be famous for famous sake. Now that you know the Kardashian mother must have paid a lot of money to a lot of people to get that sex tape out. You realize that, right? So our kids look at that and they say, well, that's the result I want. I just want to be famous. They just look at it like, I want to be famous. That's what is driving a lot of this. It's kids today just want to be famous. They promise me fame. And the people who are seducing our kids are so gullible. It's so easy to convince them that, yes, you can be the Real Housewives of Atlanta. It's so easy to convince them. It's so easy because they're so gullible, because they want to be or they choose to be. So we have to have conversations around that. What is it that you really want to do? I'm talking about my daughter. I can't talk about your kids, but I can talk about my daughter. My youngest daughter, Anna, is still in high school. So she's still going through the process. But I can talk about Alexandra because she's there. From she was little, all she wanted to do was study law. When the going hit and the tough had to get going, she said, this is all I know I want to do. I don't know what I would do if I don't do this. And it created in her such a burning desire that she had to stay up all night and study and read law textbooks that are this thick. So Annalisa wants to be a doctor, and she's like, I guess that's me next. Mine will be double thick. And I am saying that because I am conscious of how the society treats our children, especially girls, and especially girls of color. In a world where everything is vanilla white, and in a world where the standard is vanilla, here comes my two colored girls who choose just professions. They choose to be a professional. They're not like, no, I don't want to be an Instagram star. No, I'm not into that. That's really not my thing. I just want to go to school and study. Can I just do that? That's what they want to do, study and go help somebody. You see where I'm coming from? Talk to our kids about realistic goals. If you have a child who says, well, I want to be a star, well, do you really want to ask tough questions? Because guess what? For you to guide them, you have to. When Alexandra says she wants to go to law school, do you really want to? How much do you want it? Because you have to want it bad. Because if you want it bad, you will work hard for it. So when they come and say they want to be a star, ask questions. Do you know what it takes to be a star? They shoot you down. They pull you down. They backbite. They stab. It takes hard work to be better than the best. How are they going to know you? How are they going to see you? Are you committed to it? They want to be a football star. They want to be a basketball star. Same rules apply. And let them know that in the event that they miss it, in the event that what they're aspiring to doesn't pan out, well, what's the backup plan? My daughter wanted to go to Harvard. And I said, that's great. We're going to try. But understand that a law degree is a law degree. A 4-year degree is a 4-year degree. So get a law degree. It's the same curriculum. All you're paying for at the other schools is networking. Do you see where? So set, in other words, what I'm saying is set achievable standards. Some people will go out of their way for their children. I applaud you. They'll do anything because that's what we want as parents. Do the best you can for them. but hold them accountable to it while you're doing it. Don't let them think that this is easy and they think it's too easy and then they walk away, so they're willing to compromise just to make it. No, no, let them know what it costs you. Let them know what it costs you. Remind them. Those are, oh my gosh, here she goes again. Oh my gosh, here goes that again, telling me. But you know what? Those are stories that will resonate with them as they grow up. They will not forget that it is a sacrifice. My mother died, and my oldest daughter says it pushed her to do what she's doing because she wants to do it for her grandmother. She wants to make sure her grandmother is in heaven watching her walk across the stage with that law degree. When mom was dying, I said, you don't want to stay long around to watch Lisa graduate high school and graduate college? Can you stay around for that? I was like, you can't even stay around to watch Alexandra just graduate law school. Can you? Come on, mom, stay here with us. Set your children, give them achievable goals and hold them accountable. And the second thing you have, the last that you have to do, you have to hover like a helicopter. Even when you let them be, still be there. Let them know you're watching from the sidelines. Let me see what you're going to do now. Since you think you know it all and you're so bad, you can take care of yourself. I'll emancipate you in a heartbeat. But here's the thing. According to the law, if I emancipate you, I'm still responsible for your bills. That's not going to work for me. So either you stay here and do it, and when you become 18, then you emancipate yourself. Emancipate yourself all you want. Hold them accountable, because they're just wanting to be, because in somebody else's household is not what happens in your household. So they're listening to their friend, and in their friend's household, the parents are free willy or whatever, and just, oh, do what you want when you want it, do what you want. You see what I'm saying? So they're listening, and they're patterning themselves of what goes on in someone else's household. Because that's how that parent is. That's how that parent does her thing. Maybe it works for her, but you're looking at it and you're like, I don't trust that outcome. It's not tested yet. I may not like that outcome, so I don't know that I want that outcome for my kid. Right? And so the cookie crumbles. So these two girls in Metro Detroit, we don't really know what has happened. Both parents are saying they don't know what happened. Their children just didn't come home from school. The children go on these social media apps and they befriend people, and people befriend them, and they listen to what these people say. And those people's voices become more urgent and become more standard in your children's ears than your voice becomes. And so your child listens to this and patterns themselves off somebody else's idea. By the time they realize, it's too late. By this time, they're in a car on their way to another city, and they have no control over their lives anymore. They even have a new name. And we used to think that it was especially true for children who came from troubled homes where there was either abuse or violence in the home, especially directed towards the child, so the child just runs away. But what about homes that are just as normal, where that doesn't happen, but the child still chooses to do that? Because sometimes when there's trouble in the home, the person will actually think, if I run away, I will be better off. And sometimes, trust me, even when there's trouble at home, you still need to tell the child, if you run away, it's not going to be better, honey. And that's going to be a hard sell, yes, but still tell them. Still make them see that the trouble you're going through is not permanent. And if they have a responsibility to stay focused. Nothing in life is easy. You want an easier life? Well, go back. I'll say it all the time. Go back in the womb and go back to God and tell God you want different parents. Tell him you want to be born to Bill Gates and so on. But this is what you are handed with, so deal with it. You think I think there was always fun growing up where I grew up? No. But we grew up in a different day and time when they told us deal with it. They told us this is what it is, be grateful. And it sounded harsh and tough, and you hated them for telling you that. But after a while, when you grew up, you realized that it could have been worse. So I ask these questions. What's going on in the home? What is the messaging? What are the circumstances in the home that is creating this? And then you start nitpicking it. So I'm not saying you're ever going to have a perfect home. That's not true. That's not what we're saying at all. Right? I'm not saying that, because sometimes we do our very best, right? It's not going to be perfect, but try. You can have the conversations, monitor, feedback, follow up, and hold them accountable. Teach them accountability. You see some of our politicians today who are grown but don't know what accountability is because no one ever held them to a standard. So aren't they surprised when they find out that there is a standard? Hold them accountable. Hold them accountable. While we pray for these young people and for that 18-year-old who jumped off the bridge, that's as loud a message of help can be. Sometimes children are in crisis. There are things going on that they don't feel safe to disclose. In some situations, we've had children who are emerging in a different sexual orientation than their parents would require. And the parents, want to do this exorcism, take them through conversion therapy, whatever. And the child is saying, I can't do this. Sometimes an adult and the child is having sex with the child. So the child is in crisis. There are things going on in the home. There's violence in the home or threats of violence in the home, right? And so the child is acting out, cries for help. Sometimes even the parents, even when you think you're doing it right, the child thinks something else and they start acting out. Things happen. Life is not perfect. That's true. That's very true. Life rarely ever hands you everything on a platter and say, here, be good. Rarely. Most of us, we have to fight through stuff to get on the other side. Have you ever really listened to people's life stories? Very few of us have had that. I recently sat with someone, and it's someone whom I know of and admire for what they have done, right? And you have to admire people who made it in spite of. Because when you listen to his story, the color of his skin might be white, but he still had challenges that he had to overcome. So you listen to it. People have things. No, it's not easy. And the way the society is going, it's probably going to get worse. I mean, it looks like the slippage started 20 or 30 years ago, so there's no middle class anymore. That's totally eroded. We pretend we live off credit. So it's just going and going and going and going and going and going. And like the Olivia Jade, the daughter of Lori Loughlin, the actress, she was well aware of the privilege with which she was born into and lived in. Like she told her parents, they didn't need to go to college. She was well aware of her privilege. And as far as she was concerned, she was going to live for the rest of her life in that environment. So some of our children, we don't have that. So we need to let them know that's what you're going to fight up against. So here's how you're going to get around that. And I'm with you. And hold them accountable. I recently saw a father disciplining his son. And I was like, do what you have to do, buddy. Keep him away from drugs. He's this close to making it. Keep him away from drugs and to keep him away from bad influence. I'm like, heck yeah. Heck yes. Because that's what it takes. Even when you have perfect kids, that's what it takes. Because they listen to one person at the wrong time. And that's all that it takes for their whole lives to change. And children don't see that. It's like I was watching something on the news this morning and it said, it was an ad actually. And it said a car crash can ruin your life in an instant because you're driving while buzzed and then you hit a pedestrian and your life is over. Just in that one instance. And I was thinking about what a paradox, what a complete analysis for that. That's a parallel to life, isn't it? Because children don't get that. They don't assimilate that in that one instance, you take that one sniff, that one, whatever they do, drag it up their nose, that one sip, your whole life changes after that. You take that, swallow that one pill, everything goes downhill after that. So here's the good news. You can change the narrative, and you have control over the narrative by making sure you stay in the game. You stay in the game by engaging your child. Talk to them. Encourage them. Talk to them. Talk to them. When you pick them up, talk to them at home. Say, hey, we're going to have dinner. Sit down. Even if dinner is a slice of pizza. Dinner doesn't have to be a 10-course gourmet meal with china dating back to the 1600s. Dinner could be right here in your family room. Dinner could be in your basement. Dinner could be in the kitchen, at the kitchen table. That's where life happens. Just sit down, talk to your child, encourage, guide, see yourself as the parent. I am your parent. In this, yes, we have a good relationship, but in this, I'm the parent. Talk to your child, motivate and guide. Yes, they're not going to like you. Being a parent is not about being popular. It's not about being the cool parent. It's about being the parent. You have to be there, right? And then you encourage them, hold them accountable. And it should work, and it will work out for you. I'm a living witness. Thank you so much. Go to my website, harrietkamick.com, and go to the exodusfoundation.com. Be a blessing to us. We thank you for your support. Your faithful support helps us every day to keep coming back and doing this, right? We're going to upload some webinars for you in just a minute. Participate in those, download them, listen to them over and over, and so on. So make sure you take advantage of that. And if you see me anywhere, hey, give me a shout out. I like that. I like meeting folks. I like talking to people. It's one of the best things ever, right? Don't pull my hair, though. I get that a lot. I was at the mall recently, and people were like, let me touch it, let me touch it, let me touch it. And I was like, okay. I was like, okay. Today's Monday, and it's going to be a great week. It's going to be sunny. So spring is finally here. We're going to get the garden tools out and get the yards looking great and planting flowers for the few months of spring and summer that we have here in Michigan. Pray for our friends in the Midwest. Yeah, people in Nebraska and so on are getting the snow is melting. So all that huge banks of snow, it has to go somewhere. So the snow is melting and it's causing flooding in some parts of the Midwest. So pray for our brothers and sisters as they go through this. I don't know how many times. I think it's every year. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. The banks of the rivers just seem to overflow. It doesn't seem like we can do anything. And then, of course, in a few months, it will be hurricane season for our friends down south. That's why I live in the Midwest. I have to worry about a cyclone bomb and, balmy kind of weather. The weather is balmy, snow, ice. I don't even mind the snow. It's the ice so much and the freaky wind. Oh, Michigan has become the windy state, right? So I say we're no sun state. We're ice state, snow state, wind state, but no sun state. So this week is going to look pretty good. People are still celebrating St. Patrick's Day, I suppose. Drive responsibly. Get an Uber or a Lyft. Uber or a Lyft. And shout out to the Fighting Irish. Hey! Right? So just say shout out to the Fighting Irish. Thank you so much for being a part of our experience this morning. Thank you, everybody. Be blessed. See ya.